Welcome, learner. Today, we are diving into an absolute mountain of source material you shared with us.
It's incredible.
Yeah, 150 incredibly specific facts detailing hidden lore, character backstories, and just pivotal plot points the Harry Potter movies left out.
I think pivotal is the right word.
So think of this as the ultimate cheat sheet to the wizarding world. Our mission is to filter this massive collection and really distill those book secrets into essential interconnected knowledge that will, I think, dramatically redefine how you view the entire series.
This deep dive is fantastic for that because it highlights the fundamental trade-offs you have to make when you adapt, 7 epic novels into your films?
Of course.
The filmmakers had to streamline things, they had to prioritize visual action, and often they soften the character edges to meet those timings.
Right, for a wider audience, maybe.
Exactly. But in doing so, they stripped away so much moral complexity and crucial foundational lore. We're going to examine everything from these much, much darker character arcs to astonishing plot mechanics that really redefine what we thought we knew about the heroes.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're not just listing facts today. We are connecting the dots to understand the thematic cost of leaving these things out.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting with the characters whose on-screen portrayals hid their true complex, often involving much darker endings or surprising turns toward morality.
What's immediately striking when you look at the material is how the films, they often chose to minimize the final moral reckoning for the major villains.
Yeah.
They preferred a more straightforward good versus evil narrative, and in doing that, they lost these really important moments that showed the internal conflicts driving these darker characters.
That simplicity is nowhere more evident than in how they handled Peter Pettigrew.
Oh, absolutely.
Movie fans see him meet his end in like a brief, almost comical scene with Dobby in Deathly Hallows. He's just stunned. That's it.
Right. It's a throwaway moment. But in the books, the consequence of his lifetime of betrayal was absolute terrifying, and it was internally driven.
It's one of the most tragic and, I think, important omissions from the entire series.
For sure. When he cornered Harry in the book, Harry reminds him that he owes him a life debt for saving him from Sirius and Lupin, back in the Shrieking Shaft.
The Prisoner of Azkaban, yeah.
And that single reminder of decency, it triggered a fatal response in Pettigrew. His moment of conscience, his hand hesitating to choke Harry, that was seen as weakness by the very instrument of his loyalty to Voldemort.
The silver hand.
The silver hand that Voldemort had given him. It's a prosthetic of dark magic, and it literally turns on him. Choke.
Wow. That is just a monumental thematic shift.
Yeah.
By removing that scene, the films erase the entire narrative weight of the life debt.
The whole thing.
It wasn't just a stunning spell. It was Peter being murdered by his own corruption.
Yeah.
It reinforced this idea that dark magic, even when it rewards you, ultimately destroys even the smallest flicker of morality you have left.
The minute he showed humanity,
the silver hand claimed his life.
Exactly. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the books consistently teach that moral choices, even tiny ones like sparing a life, they have these monumental, sometimes delayed repercussions.
Right.
The film turned a deeply tragic moment of moral consequence into a throwaway gag involving a house elf, and it diminishes the stakes of betrayal entirely.
Speaking of moral splits and deep-seated prejudice, let's look at the Black family's tragic divisions.
Yes.
Everyone knows the two iconic pure-blood sisters,
Sure.
Bellatrix Lestrange and Narcissa Malfoy, but the source material confirms the existence of a third sister, a major point of deflection other than Sirius.
This third sister is Andromeda Tonks.
Nymphadora Tonks' mother.
That's her. And Andromeda was completely disowned. I mean, literally erased from the family tapestry by her pure-blood sisters because she married a muggle-born wizard named Ted Tonks.
So it wasn't just Sirius who was cast out.
No, and this detail really highlights just how rigid and unforgiving the Black family's pure-blood mania was. While Sirius's story is about leaving, Andromeda's story is about being cast out for choosing love over blood status.
And the family's ancestral house elf creature, he embodies this whole history of prejudice and eventually loyalty.
He really does. The films only show Creature as this grumpy, mudblood-hating creature, loyal only to the idea of pure blood and the old ways.
But his book Redemption Arc is essential. It completely redefines the house elf community.
It does. His transformation begins when he tells the trio the full, heartbreaking story of R.A.B.
Regulus Arcturus Black.
Right.
Sirius's brother.
The very same. The one who discovered Voldemort's Horcrux secret and was trying to destroy it. After hearing this story, and importantly receiving genuine kindness from the trio, Creature changes entirely.
And what does he do?
He starts leading the Hogwarts house elf. He rallies them into the final battle, fighting that shift prejudice overturned by kindness and a shared mission is immense.
It is truly staggering. Creature leading an army of house elves into battle. I mean, what a visual. And just to tie up that loose end, when Sirius died, he left his family home, Grimmauld Plate, and Creature to Harry in his will. Harry allowed the Order to continue using the house's headquarters and sent Creature to work in the Hogwarts kitchen, where he was happier and started spreading his newfound loyalty to the others.
Now let's turn to the Dark Lord himself, Voldemort's origins and the love.
Okay.
This is arguably the darkest, most unsettling part of the series, and was, well, it was heavily sanitized or just ignored in the cinematic adaptations.
The conception story is profoundly disturbing. It frames Voldemort's entire existence as a product of magical violence. His mother, Merope, was described as inbred and just miserable, living in poverty and neglect.
And she used a love potion, specifically Amortentia, on the handsome muggle Tom Riddle Sr.
Right, forcing him into marriage and impregnating him completely against his will.
His very genesis is founded on a total lack of free will and an act of extreme coercion.
And the tragedy of Maros is that she made this catastrophic miscalculation.
She did. She stopped administering the potion, believing that even without the magic, Tom Riddle Sr. would stay, out of genuine affection or for the sake of the unborn baby.
But he didn't.
Fled immediately, abandoned. She died shortly after giving birth to Tom Marvolo Riddle, which cemented his lifelong pathological true parental love. And that's what Dumbledore identifies as his ultimate.
The film mentions the Riddle family found dead in Goblet of Fire, but the book confirms that Voldemort, well, he certainly didn't forget that abandonment.
No, he didn't. Later, in Half-Blood Prince, we confirm that Voldemort himself carried out the murders of Tom Riddle Sr. and his parents using the...
And the deep lore of how he did it is crucial. It shows his cold, calculating evil even as a young man.
He framed his uncle, Morphin Gaunt, for the murders. He hadn't even finished his Hogwarts training when he stunned Morphin, stole his wand, committed the crime, and then modified Morphin's memory.
Just to ensure his uncle would confess and take the blame.
Exactly. This move secured the priceless Gaunt ring, which was a Horcrux, and it illustrated the depth of his magical prowess, strategic cruelty at a very young...
Finally, in this section, let's talk about another Dark Wizard's final moment. Grindelwald's final remorse. In Deathly Hallows, the film shows Grindelwald giving up the Elder Wand location to Voldemort pretty quickly. It suggests cowardice or just indifference.
But the book completely reframes his character. It gives him this crucial moment of atonement. When Voldemort arrived at Nurmengard, the prison, Grindelwald refused to tell him anything.
And this wasn't just simple resistance.
No, not at all. He was actively trying to protect Dumbledore's grave, where the wand lay. The book implies he felt deep, profound remorse for the damage he'd caused. Voldemort killed him as a result.
That single change minimizes Grindelwald's moral complexity immensely. The book version implies that decades of reflection led him to a final selfless act of protection for the one person he ever truly loved, even in death.
He died trying to stop the greater evil that he himself had foreshadowed. It's a nuance completely missing from the film's portrayal.
Now let's pivot to the deeper magic and the history that shapes the present, particularly focusing on the true identities and secret talents of key individuals, details that the films often presented as just magical quirks.
Okay, so we absolutely have to start with the Marauders' map secrets.
We do.
The films introduce the map and the nicknames Money, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, but they treat the map as this mysterious, convenient plot device.
They utterly fail to explain who those people were or the fact that they were the map's extremely talented creators.
This omission is huge. It hides the deep bond and magical talent of James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew. We know Mooney, right?
On the full moon.
Padfoot is Sirius Black, Prongs is James Potter, and Wormtail is Peter Pettigrew.
Okay, and here's where we should clarify a technicality, as it was requested in our source material. The singular term for this transformation is Animiguth, and the plural is Animiguy.
Animiguth and Animiguy. Got it.
So the reason they created the map was to help Lupin survive his transformations.
Right. And crucially, James Potter, like Sirius and Peter, was an Animiguth who could transform into a stag.
And this is the direct reason Harry's Patronus takes the form of a stag. It's not a coincidence.
Precisely. It's an inherited trait, an incredible piece of lore. The stag is the visual representation of James's core magical self. The appearance of the stag Patronus throughout the series, protecting Harry, is a direct, inherited magical manifestation of his father identity.
It adds such profound emotional weight every time it appears.
It really does.
Now, speaking of Animiguy, we need to discuss those who are unregistered. Being an unregistered Animiguth is highly illegal. Which brings us to a character whose unethical behavior the books fully exposed, Rita Skeeter,
Rita Skeeter is not just a gossipy journalist, she's an unregistered anime goose who turns into a beetle.
A beetle?
Yeah, this tiny form allows her to sneak into key locations at Hogwarts, like the rose bushes or under tables, and gather all her nasty fabricated story, whether it's outing Hagrid as a half-giant or gossiping wildly about Harry, Hermione, and Krum.
Her lack of ethics is literally backed by illegal magical practice.
And this is where we get a great taste of Book Hermione's fierce pragmatic justice.
Oh, this is good.
She discovered Rita's secret and captured her in a jar.
No way.
Yeah, essentially keeping her imprisoned and blackmailing her into writing Harry's true, unvarnished account of Voldemort's return for the Quip.
Wow, that's a key piece of character depth. It showcases Hermione's willingness to break laws and use coercive means to achieve what she views as a moral truth.
It elevates her far beyond the simple bookworm role the films often assign her.
Absolutely. Let's turn now to Hogwarts itself and the infamous Dita Curse. Why did they need a new defense against the dark arts teacher every single year? The film completely failed to explain that huge ongoing plot hole.
The reason is pure long-game strategic spite from Voldemort.
Of course it is.
He had been promised the job by the former headmaster, Professor Dippet, many years ago. When he returned years later, Dumbledore was headmaster and refused him the position, suspecting his dark intents.
And Voldemort didn't take that well.
Not at all. Before leaving the castle, he cursed the position itself so no teacher could hold the role for more than 1 year. He ensured the school suffered from chronic instability in its defense.
That context makes perfect sense. A teacher only lasting a single year ensured the students never received full, consistent, and strong defense training.
It systematically weakened Hogwarts' foundation against the rise of the dark. It wasn't bad luck. It was a deliberate, targeted, magical attack on the school's future.
Now for one of the most surprising emotional connections in the lore, the Dumbledore-Petunia connection.
This one is fascinating.
We know Petunia Dursley hated magic with a burning passion, but the books reveal she was secretly envious and desperate to go to Hogwarts herself.
That's a heartbreaking detail that really grounds her later resentment. Snape's memory in The Prince's Tale confirms that when Petunia was a young girl, she wrote a letter to Dumbledore asking to attend Hogwarts, just like Lily.
And Dumbledore wrote her back.
He did, gently but firmly denying her request, explaining her lack of magical ability, and that, you can imagine, explains part of her buried resentment and the magical world that had...
But the connection didn't end there, and Dumbledore used it as a powerful form of protection.
Yes. When Vernon Dursley, during Order of the Phoenix, tried to physically kick Harry out of the house...
Where he tried to do often.
He did. Dumbledore sent Petunia a howler. It didn't scream a long message of fury. It simply said, "Remember my last." And that single short, chilling phrase immediately forced Petunia to insist Harry stay in the house. This reminded her of Dumbledore's previous letter explaining that Harry had to call her house home for Lily's powerful love protect, which was tied to Petunia's shared blood to carry on.
It was a moment where she chose protection and family responsibility over her pride and hatred.
It was. Now, moving to another critical piece of prophecy, the chosen one that was.
Right, the films focus entirely on Harry.
But the actual prophecy's description delivered by Trelawney was broad enough to encompass someone else.
The prophecy stated the person would be born at the end of July to parents who had defied Voldemort 3 times. It could have been Neville Longbottom.
Exactly. His parents, Frank and Alice, had defied Voldemort 3 times, and Neville was also born at the end of July.
So what was the deciding fact?
The key takeaway is that Voldemort himself inadvertently set the prophecy in stone by choosing which child to pursue that fateful night.
He made the choice.
He did. Had he chosen Neville, Neville would have been the chosen. This choice highlights Voldemort's fundamental misjudgment. He targeted the half-blood, Harry, rather than the pureblood, Neville, completely underestimating the power of Lily's love protection.
Finally, in this section, let's tackle Severus Snape's complex motivation. The films simplify him drastically into a tortured hero, driven entirely by his love for Lily.
And it's so much more complicated than that.
The books layer in a much darker, self-serving reason for his extreme efforts to protect Harry.
His motivations were intensely personal, complicated, and, yes, rather selfish. Snape went above and beyond to save Harry purely even with James Potter.
Because James had saved his life.
Exactly. From Lupin's werewolf form in the Shrieking Shack, once that debt was paid, Snape felt he could go back to hating James's memory. The protection was initially less about pure morality and more about settling a person.
So it was obligation, not goodness. But the source material also confirms the terrible truth of the prophecy that defined his life.
He was the one who overheard it.
Snape overheard Sybil Trelawney's prophecy during her job interview, and as a Death Eater, he told Voldemort what he heard.
Making him the direct tragic reason Harry became an orphan and Lily and James died. He engineered the very situation he spent his life trying to.
And we can't ignore a fact that reveals the petty depths of Snape's cruelty, especially towards Neville.
Ugh, yes.
Snape tried to kill Neville's toad, Trevor, by testing a shrinking potion on it that he knew Neville likely got wrong. He threatened that if Neville's potion was slightly incorrect, it would be fatally poisoned.
That level of calculated malice against a student highlights the truly dark, unforgiving side of his character that the films often glossed over in their quest for a simplified tragedy.
Okay, now we're looking at the hidden rules of the wizarding world, the unsung heroes who had massive, uncredited roles, and the societal laws that define life outside of Hogwarts.
This section really highlights the depth of the world building. It shows that the films omitted crucial laws and foundational part structure, often to soften the edges of certain authority figures and ignore the political machinations of the minute.
Let's start with an authority figure who was far less gentle than his film counterpart, Dumbledore's treatment of the Dursleys.
Oh, this is a great one.
In the films, Dumbledore is always polite, gentle, abstract in his dealings with them, but the book shows he had a spectacular, fiery confrontation that put them in their place.
At the beginning of Half-Blood Prince, Dumbledore visited the Dursley house and was absolutely cutting in his assessment. He called their long-term mistreatment of Harry despicable.
He didn't hold back?
Not at all. He delivered a scathing indictment. The only good thing that came out of them watching Harry was that he escaped the appalling damage they had inflicted on their own unfortunate son, Dudley. Wow. He was fierce, protective, and brutally honest about their failings as parents. It shows a harsh, protective Dumbledore the films completely avoid.
The passive-aggressive Dumbledore versus the cutting, protective Dumbledore. It changes the dynamics of Harry's entire up.
It does.
Now let's talk about a piece of dark arts, the Ministry and the Taboo.
The Taboo is one of the most essential missing plot points from Deathly Hallows, and it explains why the trio was so paranoid.
Right.
After Voldemort took over the Ministry, Death Eaters place a magical taboo on Voldemort's name. Saying the word Voldemort out loud, even accidentally, would instantly lead Snatchers right.
That's a powerful and terrifying piece of dark magical surveillance.
It is. It's why characters had to rely so heavily on nicknames like You-Know-Who or He Who Must Not Be Named in the later books. It was a literal magical beacon.
And this mechanism was what led the Snatchers to the trio in the book. It served as a critical plot device for their capture.
And speaking of magical law, getting around the world requires more than just gut. To apparate and disapparate, you need to pass a test and get a license.
Like a Muggle driver's.
Exactly like that. Hogwarts hosted lessons in their 6th year. Hermione naturally passed, showing her magical control.
And Ron?
Ron, hilariously, failed, famously leaving half an eyebrow behind in a display of poor magical coordination. Harry was too young to take the test until the summer he turned 7.
And that detail provides essential context for why they couldn't just pop out of every sticky situation.
Yeah.
It wasn't just plot convenience.
Right, there were rules. Now, let's turn to the Weasley family drama, which was far more painful and protracted than the films led on.
Percy's betrayal was not just a political disagreement, it was an abandonment.
A complete abandonment. He sided with the Ministry and Fudge against Harry and Dumbledore in Order of the Phoenix. He told his father, Arthur, that he was holding him back due to his embarrassing obsession with Muggles, and slammed the door in Mrs. Weasley's face.
He cut off the family completely. The emotional fallout for Arthur and Molly was immense, far exceeding a simple difference of opinion.
And he doubled down on the cruelty. He later wrote Ron this highly disrespectful letter congratulating him on becoming a prefect.
Oh, I remember that.
Telling Ron to rat out Harry to Dolores Umbridge, whom he called a delightful woman.
A delightful woman. Wow.
This demonstrates that he was not just misguided, he was completely bought into the Ministry's sacrificing his family for perceived career advance.
His arc was only completed in the book when he finally returned to the family, making amends during the final battle of Hogwarts, fighting alongside.
That return and reconciliation provided a significant emotional resolution that the film just barely bothered to mention.
Next, let's look at unseen Hogwarts staff and roles, starting with Dumbledore's quick political maneuvering after Umbridge's first strike.
So when Umbridge fired Trelawney,
A very public, humiliating firing.
Dumbledore acted instantly and brilliantly. He hired Firenze, the centaur, to teach divination immediately, preventing the Ministry from filling the position with their own lack.
It showed Dumbledore's political chess game, prioritizing the school's autonomy over Ministry interference.
And we must revisit Dobby's critical role. He was present in books 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, far more than the movie. After being freed, Dobby worked in the Hogwarts kitchen.
Paid a wage by Dumbledore.
making him a pioneer for house elf rights within the school.
And his role as Harry's secret helper was vital. He was the one who found the room of requirement for the DA meet, and he gave Harry Gillyweed for the Triwizard Tournament. These critical acts were often handed off to Neville in the film,
which stripped Dobby of his role as an unsung hero and, quite frankly, diminished Neville's own unique contribution by just giving him Dobby's plot points.
One of the most emotional moments in the books involved Molly Weasley and the solidification of her mother-son bond with Harry.
Yes, well, he always appreciated her. When did he truly see her as a mother figure?
It was immediately after he returned from the graveyard after facing Voldemort in Goblet of Fire.
Right after Cedric's death.
Molly rushed to the hospital wing. She immediately hugged him, told him it wasn't his fault, and Harry thought he had never been hugged as though by a mother, releasing all his buried grief.
That's the moment where the deep, undeniable mother-son bond is truly cemented through shared trauma and comfort.
Now for the Masters of Mischief, the Weasley twins' legacy. The films made their exit epic, but the books gave them a deeper, more detailed financial and mischievous history.
And Harry was their silent founding partner?
He was. He gave Fred and George the 1,000 galleons he won from the Triwizard Tournament to open Weasley's wizard.
And the twins, out of pride and affection, they refused to pay him back. But they ensured he got anything he wanted from the shop for free. That money was the start of their hugely successful business empire.
And their epic farewell included a character cut entirely from the film, Peeves the Poltergeist.
Ah, Peeves.
As they dramatically exited, Fred and George instructed Peeves to give Umbridge hell for them. And Peeves, who usually takes orders from absolutely nobody,
actually saluted them and later chased Umbridge out of the school while whacking her with Professor McGonagall's cane. The chaos they sparked on their way out.
The sources even reveal their earliest, completely unwitting mischief. In Philosopher's Stone, before they knew the Dark Lord was residing there, the twins threw a snowball that hit the back of Quirrell's head where Voldemort was clinging for life.
An inadvertent, truly fitting attack on the Dark Lord by the Chaos.
Finally, the harsh reality of the wizarding world affected them early in the fourth. They were robbed of their life savings by Ludo Bag,
the head of the Department of Magical Games and Sports, a compulsive gambler. They won a bet that Ireland would win the World Cup and Crumb would catch the snit, but Bagman refused to pay them,
leaving them penniless until Harry gifted them the Triwizard.
Okay, let's talk about Book Hermione.
Movie Hermione is often framed as the perfect rule-following brainiac, the moral center who only bends rules when necessary.
But Book Hermione has this fierce, socially conscious edge. She's an activist, a blackmailer, and sometimes ruthlessly pragmatic.
This is a crucial distinction. Her character in the books is driven by passion and social justice, leading her to break rules and use her brilliant magical intellect in aggressive, legally dubious way.
Her morality is complex. She believes the ends justify the means if the cause.
Let's start with her primary cause, SPEW and the First Kiss. The films completely excised SPEW.
The Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare. It was central to her identity in the Middle.
She was fanatically obsessed with house elf right. She founded the organization and was so deeply committed that she went on a hunger strike when she found out house elves were responsible for making the food at Hogwarts.
It's an illustration of her willingness to radical act.
And the connection to her relationship with Ron is massive because it finally proved he understood the core of who she was.
Right. Their first kiss was triggered by Ron saying they had to get the house elves out of danger before the final battle started.
This social justice aligned. Ron finally recognizing and respecting her deepest passion, that was the basis of their romantic breakthrough.
Now for the darker side of her pragmatic justice, the blackmailer and the curse. We already mentioned her blackmailing Rita Skeeter by capturing her as a beetle in a jar.
Which is just wild.
That alone showcases her willingness to use illegal means to silence the press and achieve a desired moral outcome. Harry's story being told.
But the Dumbledore's army situation is even more chilling and reveals the depths of her ruthlessness. She cursed the parchment used to sign up for DA.
And the film incorrectly implies Cho Chang betrayed them under Veritasrum, which weakens Cho's character. In the book, Cho was innocent.
It was her friend, Marietta Edgecombe, who ratted them out.
And the consequence was brutal and immediate. When Marietta broke the pact, the word sneak permanently appeared in painful, angry pimples across her face.
This is Hermione willingly using dark, permanent, and potentially scarring magic against someone she views as a betrayer.
It shows a far more morally complex character than the film portrayed, a girl who doesn't hesitate to use extreme magical measures to enforce loyalty.
She also demonstrated her sheer brilliance with the DA's communication system. How did they hold secret meetings right under Umbridge's nose?
Hermione created fake galleons, charming them to display the time and date of the next DA meeting on the serial number.
That's genius.
Umbridge would never suspect students were using currency. It was invisible to all standard surveillance and check.
And finally, A small but important detail regarding the beauty makeover. Book, Hermione was often described as plain-looking, with noticeably large butt.
This wasn't just a random detail, it was a source of her self-conscious. The change wasn't accidental. After Draco hit her with a spell that enlarged her further,
Madame Pomfrey was setting them back to normal size.
and Hermione, seizing the opportunity, sneakily asked her to continue shrinking them slightly past their original size.
So she engineered it herself.
Resulting in normalized teeth and contributing to her stunning appearance at the Yule Ball, a change she engineered herself through careful manipulation during a medical...
All right, here's where we see just how intense the conflict got.
Yeah, the lines between good and evil really blurred with the use of powerful and sometimes unforgivable curse. We see the hero push past his limits and forced to use the darkest of magic.
These moments are critical because they highlight that magic itself is amoral. The intent determines the dark.
And Harry, being forced to use unforgivable curses, emphasizes the high cost of war. It raises profound questions about what a hero is willing to sacrifice to ensure victory and justice.
The moment everyone remembers in Deathly Hallows is Harry standing up for McGonagall in the Ravenclaw Common. But in the book, he took that stand a massive step further. Harry uses the Cruciatus Curse.
He used the torture curse on Amicus Carrow after Carrow committed an unforgivable offense, spitting in Professor McGonagall's face.
That's it. That's what pushed him over the edge.
It's a clear demonstration that Harry was pushed past his breaking point, viewing Carrow's action as an unforgivable violation against a maternal figure and a beloved teacher. The strength of that protective bond led him to successfully employ an unforgivable curse.
The context surrounding the Malfoy bathroom duel is also critical. When Harry used Sectum Sempra on Malfoy, the films made Harry look like an aggressor.
Like he was just trying out this dark spell he found.
Right. The crucial difference is the film left out Malfoy's dark intent.
The film entirely omitted that Malfoy had tried to use the Cruciatus Curse on Harry first.
Wow.
It illustrates just how far Draco had fallen and how desperate he was. This detail changes the moral calculus completely, making Harry's counter-use of the dark magic Sectum Sempra justifiable as self-defense.
So it mitigates the view of Harry as the initial aggressor in that conflict.
And it wasn't just young wizards learning the dark arts. Even a beloved international Quidditch star was forced to use the curse. Victor Crumb under the Imperious Curse.
Yeah, use the Cruciatus Curse on Cedric Diggory during the Triwizard Maze task.
This perfectly illustrates the insidious nature of the Imperious Curse, forcing fundamentally good, well-intentioned people to commit heinous, violent acts against their will.
It removes personal responsibility from the victim while showcasing the terrifying power of mind control magic.
Let's detail more Imperious Curse victims in purple. Draco Malfoy was highly effective and sophisticated.
He was. Draco Malfoy put the landlady of the Three Broomsticks, Madame Rosmerta, under the Imperious Curse, forcing her to poison Slughorn's gift for Dumbledore and deliver the cursed necklace to Katie Bell.
That required planning, sustained control, and sophisticated, indirect dark. It's a sign of how deep Malfoy had been pulled into the dark arts by his family.
Then there's the surprising case of Stan Shunpike, the seemingly innocent night bus attendant.
Stan was arrested by the Ministry, escaped during the Azkaban breakout, and fought alongside Death Eaters under the Imperious Curse. This demonstrated how low the Death Eaters stooped to fill their ranks, using innocents as controlled pawns.
And we must not forget the controversial Mad-Eye Moody's lesson.
Yeah, Barty Crouch Jr., disguised as Moody, used the illegal Imperious Curse on every single student during a data class to teach them exactly what it felt like.
A dangerous, illegal, yet highly effective teaching method.
And Harry was the only student able to successfully fight it off and throw off the curse, showcasing his immense innate power and unique resistance to mind control magic.
Perhaps connected to his connection with Voldemort.
Possibly. Finally, let's explore the chilling origin of some of the most infamous dark magic. The creation of Sectum Sempra and Levicorpus.
Snape. It was always Snape.
Severus Snape created both of those spells and more during his time at Hogwarts, documenting them in his annotated potions book, which Harry later inherited.
He created Levicorpus, the non-verbal curse that dangles victims upside down.
And the source confirms that it caught fire throughout Hogwarts, becoming a popular student prank and later being used by Death Eaters at the Quidditch World Cup.
So Snape's dark experimentation had widespread, unintended, and often dangerous consequences far beyond his own intention.
Okay, this set of facts addresses all the dangling threads left by the...
Giving us closure and clarity on key characters and items. We're going to find out what happened next, providing much-needed resolution.
This section reveals the depth of Rowling's world building, where even minor characters have definitive outcome. The films often felt comfortable leaving major threads dangling.
But The books provided definitive and often deeply sad resolutions. Let's start with Gilderoy Lockhart's aftermath. After being blasted by his own memory charm, Lockhart was never seen again in the film.
In the books, he was permanently institutionalized at the permanent spell damage ward at St. Mungo's Hospital.
And he never recovered.
3 years later, his memory was still wiped, though in a moment of pure egotistical irony, he had recovered enough to remember how to sign autographs.
Of course he did. That is the most Lockhart-like memory to retain. His vanity was stronger than his brain.
Now, Mad-Eye Moody's burial is another point where the film gave us a brutal death, but no dignity for a character who sacrificed.
Moody's death was off-screen. Death Eaters took his body. And the most disturbing detail is that Dolores Umbridge ended up with his magical eye.
She displayed it in her ministry office door to monitor.
Horrifying.
After escaping the ministry, Harry took the eye out and later buried it next to a most gnarled and resilient-looking tree, giving Moody a proper, fittingly rugged burial that matched his tough ethic. An act of respect the film omitted.
And a crucial detail about Harry's core instrument. After his original Holly and Phoenix feather wand was snapped.
Snapped by Hermione's accidental back.
How did he manage to fix it when Hermione said it was impossible?
He used the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand in the world, which he had just won from Malfoy, to fix his own broken.
He restored his original connection to the Holly Wand before returning the Elder Wand to Dumbledore's tomb.
This choice emphasizes Harry. He fixed his original wand, the one tied to his history, and then rejected the power of the Deathly Hallow.
Let's dive deep into Quidditch details and drama, because the films cut a lot of the sport's necessary drama and character development.
For sure. Ron played keeper for Gryffindor in his 5th year, not just his 6th. Despite initial struggles and being brutally taunted by the Slytherin song, "Weasley is our king."
He overcame his nervousness, played brilliantly at the end, and secured the championship for Gryffindor.
And the student body then reclaimed the song as a chant for Ron, making him a hero and giving him a massive confidence boost that was essential for his character development.
Ginny's recklessness during a victory celebration is another detail I love that shows her fiery personality.
After securing a win, Ginny flew her broom directly into the announcer's box, slamming into Zachariah Smith, a particularly annoying Hufflepuff who frequently insulted Gryffindor.
And then blamed the entire incident on forgetting to break.
Class. And finally, a key piece of World Cup trivia that explains the scoring. Victor Krum caught the golden snitch, which usually ends the game in a win.
But Bulgaria still lost 170-160 to Ireland.
Krum ended the game, seeing that his team had absolutely no chance of catching up on the score, preferring to end it on his term, illustrating a complex, nuanced understanding of the game's strategic scoring.
Our final dive in this section is the Triwizard Tournament Deep Dive, focusing on the true dangers and specifics of the third task.
The third task maze in the books was far more perilous and contained magical creatures that had been introduced in previous books. It held blast-ended Scrooge,
Hagrid's monstrous crossbreeds,
a Sphinx, Boggarts, and Acromantula. Crucially, Harry and Cedric faced one enormous Acromantula together, resulting in Harry actually breaking his leg before he was portkeyed to face Voldemort in the graveyard.
That detail fighting Voldemort on a broken leg adds immense depth to Harry's heroism and resilience in that moment. He beat the Dark Lord while significantly wounded.
And during the second task, Harry received assistance from a very surprising source, Moaning Myrtle.
Myrtle traveled through the pipes from her bathroom down to the Black Lake and pointed Harry in the right direction to find the hospital.
Her assistance explains why Harry was able to locate the Myrtle's village and reach Ron before the other champ, giving her an unexpected moment of heroism that the film leads.
Finally, a quick mention of the setup for the tournament. Ollivander, the wand maker, was actually present at Hogwarts for the weighing of the wands ceremony, inspecting all 4 champions' wands before the competition began.
It just added this layer of gravitas and professionalism.
Okay, let's look at the emotional core of the series. While we focus on the main trio, the relationships between Harry and the Weasleys, or between siblings like Bellatrix and Andromeda, they truly define the story's emotional landscape in moral sense.
And they often demand huge leaps of faith or forgiveness. Let's start with the relationship that faced the most friction. Molly and Ginny versus Fleur.
Right. They strongly disliked Fleur Delacour when Bill proposed. They viewed her as stuck-up, arrogant, and were generally suspicious of her intent.
Their acceptance came only after a shocking permanent event that proved Fleur's character beyond.
They only accepted her after the Battle of the Astronomy Tower, when Bill was mauled by Fenrir Greyback, the vicious werewolf, and was permanently and horribly scarred.
And Fleur immediately stood by, saying she still loved him and would marry him regardless of his appearance. That single moment proved her depth of character to the entire Weasley.
We also have a deeply important connection for Harry, Harry's godfather duty to Teddy Luke.
This decision stemmed from an earlier, highly emotional confrontation with Remus. Harry had called out Lupin earlier in Deathly Hallows for trying to abandon his pregnant wife, Tom, to join the trio.
He did. He accused Lupin of echoing the cowardice of his own father, who had abandoned his family when they were most vulnerable.
Harry's harsh words prompted Lupin to return to his family, and out of immense gratitude for that moral intervention, Lupin and Tonks chose Harry as Teddy's guardian.
Moving back to Hogwarts history, the true tragedy behind two of its ghosts is revealed, the Bloody Baron and the Grey Lady.
Who is actually Helena Ravenclaw, Rowena Ravenclaw's daughter.
Helena stole Ravenclaw's priceless diadem. Her dying mother, in a moment of despair, sent the Baron, who was secretly in love with Helena, to retrieve her.
When Helena refused, the Baron stabbed her in a fit of passionate rage. Overwhelmed with remorse, he immediately stabbed himself.
And they returned as ghosts to Hogwarts.
But the Baron, ashamed of his act, never bothered Helena again. His silver chains are a symbol of the penance he wears for his violent crime.
That is a dark Shakespearean origin story for two characters we usually just see floating vaguely in the background.
It is. On a somewhat sadder note, let's talk about Professor Trelawney's habit.
Trelawney was a heavy drinker, which Harry discovered when he found her disposing of many empty alcohol bottles in the room of requirement.
This helped explain why she rarely left her tower, often seems so scattered, and perhaps why her occasional true prophecies emerged during states of inebriation or delirium. It added a layer of human frailty.
Dumbledore's funeral was, in the books, a massive traditional affair. The films showed the wand-raising moment, but the book provided a full list of attendees and a sense of magical gravitas.
It reinforced Dumbledore's status as the greatest wizard of his age. The book featured a traditional funeral, attended by many friendly faces: Maxime, Kingsley, Lupin, Tonks, even Mrs. Fig.
And some unexpected unfriendly ones like Fudge, Umbridge, and Rita Skeeter.
Importantly, the merpeople from the Black Lake and centaurs from the Forbidden Forest came to pay their respects, and Fawkes the Phoenix gave a final, beautiful lament. It underscored Dumbledore's entire magical world.
Finally, let's revisit the missing Weasley. The films largely ignored two important Weasley brothers who had critical roles in the later books.
Charlie Weasley was largely absent from the films, but he was vital. He was responsible for bringing the dragons to Hogwarts for the Triwizard Task, as he works with dragons in Romania.
And he fought bravely in the Battle of Hogwarts, arriving late with Slughorn and hundreds of reinforcements.
He changed the tide of the battle in favor of the good guys when they needed it.
And Bill Weasley was introduced much earlier than the Deathly Hallows.
His relationship with Fleur was detailed throughout Half-Blood Prince, starting when he was introduced to Quidditch World Cup in the fourth book as a curse breaker working for Gringotts. This gave his subsequent mauling by Greyback much... Okay, let's wrap up with the Durs. Their stories fast. Books grant them a few moments of depth. The film, whether it's Vernon's bizarre perspective.
We see the world through their deeply warped, yet occasionally understandable muggle eye. And let's start with the very beginning of Vernon Dursley. The first chapter of the first book is told entirely from his extremely mundane, highly prejudiced point.
The book details his bizarre day, seeing a cat reading a map, which was Professor McGonagall, and overhearing oddly dressed people, witches, and wizards mentioning Harry Potter and the demise of the Dark Lord.
This grounding perspective allows the audience to understand the sheer horror of the inexplicable for a muggle, something completely lost when the film starts with the trio delivering Harry on the doorstep.
Dudley also went through a profound physical and emotional change, far more than the film did. Let's talk about Dudley's transformation.
Dudley became so massively overweight that his private school uniform didn't fit. He was described as the size of a baby killer whale.
The school nurse mandated a strict diet, which Petunia forced the whole family to follow, leading to Vernon complaining bitterly about the rabbit.
But the diet worked, and he took up boxing. Dudley lost weight and became the school boxing champ, which explains why he developed a protective instinct and some self-awareness toward Harry later in the series.
He actually thanks Harry for saving his life from the Dementors in order of the...
A huge moment for him. And Harry himself showed signs of immense, raw magical power even as a child, long before he knew he was a wizard.
He unconsciously performed apparition without a wand or lice. When Dudley and his gang were chased, he jumped behind a trash can and instantly appeared on the roof.
It demonstrates an inherent, powerful, and raw resistance to physical threats, often manifesting when he was most scared or threatened.
We have a few final, powerful details about the missing friends, and in first, Quirrell's forgotten defense.
In Philosopher's Stone, 2 obstacles were cut from the film's adaptation. Quirrell's obstacle was a full-grown troll that Quirrell knocked out himself, establishing his ability to bypass the protection.
And Snape's obstacle was a riddle involving potions solved by Hermione. But there was only enough potion for one person to pass, which is why Harry went on without her. It gave Hermione her own moment of essential contribution.
And the cruelty of Umbridge extended to Creed.
Umbridge ordered Harry's beloved owl, Hedwig, to be attacked while intercepting Harry's mail, injuring her so badly that Professor grubbly plank had to nurse her back to health.
It was a vicious, targeted attack on Harry's only consistent connection to the outside world.
Finally, we must acknowledge the loss of a minor but frequent character who often symbolized the wonder and joy of the new Colin Creed,
who appeared frequently in the book, was murdered during the Battle of Hogwarts, despite being too young to officially fight.
His body was found by Neville and Oliver Wood as they collected the dead. It provided a stark, painful reminder that the war claimed innocents who desperately wanted.
We must end with one of the wildest, most bizarre, and most tense scenes that was completely omitted: the time room incident during the Battle of the Departments.
Oh, this is pure magical horror and absurdity combined. A moment of chaos magic.
The fight took place in the time room, which featured a bell jar that housed a hummingbird on an infinite loop of hatching and returning to an egg.
When the Death Eater Razan Lestrange, stumbling during the fight, put his head inside the jar,
it caused his head to instantly revert to a baby size, where his body remained an adult.
He stumbled around in this terrifying, absurd state for the rest of the battle. It's a moment that perfectly captures the unpredictable, chaotic danger of the Ministry's forgotten magical department. So if we connect this to the bigger, what we've done today is pull back the curtain on the narrative choices the films made that sacrificed depth for efficiency.
Right. They prioritized action and visual spectacle.
But in doing so, they lost the deeper moral shades of characters like Snape, whose protection was tied to a selfish debt, and Grindelwald, who achieved a moment of genuine, heroic.
And they completely overlooked the incredible depth of social commentary present in Hermione's intense, sometimes dark fight for SPEW and the nuances of magical governance rules.
Things like apparition licenses and the critical danger of the taboo curse.
Here's where it gets really. When you consider all these facts, the hidden enemy guy, the taboo curse that tracked dissenters, James saving Snape's life, Hermione cursing Marietta, and the dark, non-consensual history of Voldemort's conception.
It's clear the books offer a much richer, darker, and thematically complex world than the films could ever capture.
We hope this deep dive gave you those essential insights you were looking for.
We certainly went deep into the lore today, covering ground that even longtime movie fans might never encounter otherwise, and hopefully giving you a new appreciation for the moral gray zones of the wizarding world.
Now, here is a provocative thought for you to carry forward. Building on the limitations of Azkaban, we know Sirius Black was the first person to successfully escape Azkaban, unassisted by others, by transforming into his dog form, allowing him to bypass the Dementor's ability to sense complex human emotions. We also know Barty Crouch Jr. was the true first escape with the help of his parents via a prisoner switch.
Right.
So, given that Dementors are effective only against complex human emotions, and prisoner switching requires external help, what other magical avenues could highly skilled, powerful dark wizard or witch exploit the prison's weaknesses to walk free entirely on their own? And why might that weakness have never been exploited before? Something to ponder as you revisit or